we'll go straight to Professor Vanderborght from the Institute of Bio and Geoscience of Jülich. We'll speak about technologies and modeling tools for agricultural, crop, and climate adaptation research. Please.
Thank you. Dear Excellencies, dear colleagues, it's my pleasure to present to you today the technologies and modeling tools that we are developing at the Agrosphere Institute at the Forschungszentrum Jülich for agricultural, crop, and climate adaptation research. So at our institute, we can divide the research teams in three main blocks. We are developing sensors for measuring and monitoring plants, terrestrial systems, and environmental processes at different scales. We are developing experimental platforms to carry out experiments, which gives us understanding about controls on hydrological and biochemical processes in terrestrial systems. And both the data we obtain with sensors and the insights we obtain from experiments can help us to improve models and simulation tools with which we can predict plant and terrestrial systems from local to continental scales. So a number of keywords. We are using technology to develop sensors and experimental platforms that give us or provide us with data and insights which can help us to improve process models. This helps us to give more understanding and insight on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, it can improve our knowledge, or it can lead to a knowledge-based management. So coming to the technologies, the first set are imaging methods that we use for non-invasive monitoring of soil processes at different scales. One example is the magnetic resonance imaging method that we developed together with colleagues from Israel to monitor the accumulation of sodium around roots, which is an important phenomena or process occurring in saline soils and occurring in saline soils irrigated with saline water. So we were among the first to show how you can monitor basically sodium accumulation in roots using or around roots using MRI system. Another device that was actually developed by our engineering department in Jülich is a spectral induced polarization system, which we use for imaging root activities and accumulation of nutrients and salts around the roots, and also for dynamic water content monitoring of date palm trees. This is again a project together with colleagues from Israel, where we are applying this technology for a specific agricultural problem. Another instrument that we developed is a mobile low-field MRI system, which we can use to obtain detailed information about soil moisture distributions in bare and dry soils. And this is important to improve models that predict evaporation losses from soils. And it provides us information non-invasively about the water content profile in the first few millimeters of a soil profile. Finally, we are also developing and improving methods and interpretation methods so that we can improve the interpretation of measurements obtained with geophysical methods that we can use for rapid soil mapping and for monitoring soil processes non-invasively at the field scale. The Agrosphere Institute is also coordinating a network of terrestrial observatories. It's called Terreno, and it's an initiative funded by the Helmholtz Association, and 4 research centers, Helmholtz research centers, are operating these terrestrial observatories in which we monitor the different components of the terrestrial system, from the groundwater, the soil, the vegetation into the atmosphere. One component of this network is our soil canalizimeter network, where we installed around 120 undisturbed soil monoliths across Germany to investigate in more detail and exactly water fluxes and solute fluxes in the soil atmosphere system. We are developing wireless sensor networks that we can directly connect with servers and databases to obtain a real-time monitoring of the terrestrial system. Finally, we are further developing isotopic analytic and sensing platforms that can be deployed outside in the field and which deliver direct information about critical biochemical and water fluxes in the field. On the experimental platforms, we are currently constructing an agricultural food production simulator in which we can monitor under controlled conditions the development of a crop over the entire cropping cycle. This means that we are constructing large plant chambers that are connected to undisturbed lysimeters so that plant growth is not limited or impeded by the limited size of the system. The systems are fully controlled. We can control temperature, humidity, lighting, and they are fully airtight so that we can also monitor isotope fluxes in these systems, which help us to disentangle different biochemical and water fluxes. This experimental platform will give us information that we can use to develop and further parameterize so-called functional structural plant models that we are using and developing, and that we can use then to optimize soil, water, and crop management in a changing climate. So the simulation models that we are developing go from detailed functional structural plant models, which couple the three-dimensional structure of the plant with internal flow and transport processes in the plant, so that the function of these organs and the function of the structure of the plant can be analyzed in diverse environments. So we can use this model then to generate virtual realities of plant development, which can then be used to improve crop and land surface models that allow predictions of vegetation development and functioning in changing environmental conditions and climate conditions. At the larger scale, we are developing and running in Jülich an entire terrestrial system model, or an holistic terrestrial system model, the TERSIS MP model, which simulates the terrestrial system from the bedrock over the groundwater, the soil, the vegetation into the atmosphere in a fully coupled way. The system is implemented on the supercomputing infrastructure in Jülich, and we can simulate the system from the catchment scale up to the continental scale with high spatial resolution. So these kind of models can be used to evaluate and investigate feedbacks between, for instance, agricultural water use and weather conditions. So the left side shows you the impact of groundwater tables and that are influenced by agricultural water use, and the air temperature and duration of heat waves during summer in for future climate scenarios. The right side shows you the impact, or shows that these models can also be used to evaluate the impact of irrigation at certain locations on the continent on the weather and precipitation at other locations in the continent. So this is because the feedbacks in between processes in groundwater soil and atmosphere are fully accounted for and described. Finally, we are using these models to make forecasts of crop and soil water states for nutrient and water management. So we are developing simulation-based products for weather and climate resilient agriculture. And we do so by combining operational weather forecasts with our environmental sensor data into the terrestrial system models and run them and provide so that they can provide simulation-based products that can be used for agricultural management. So this was my last slide, and I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.